Hi, everyone. Welcome into Prime Time. I'm Barbara Marville Kelly, and with me is my partner, but not partner in crime, Dennis Kelly. We're back again.
We're back. They're back.
I know, they're back. And are we ever? Because we've been having some really nice, open conversation that we wanted to share with you today. We want to thank you for joining us. I did post on Facebook today some different points on what we were going to be talking about. And I wanted to share that with you because there's a whole lot of importance on words. Would you agree?
I agree, absolutely.
Words are very powerful. So I would think, as both of us being life coaches, maybe some of you are life coaches, or maybe you're the observer of other people's conversation, I'm guessing we need to be very careful with what we talk about, what we say, how we say it, right?
Above all, you have to be careful about what words you're thinking about, too.
That's right. Because
if you're thinking and stinking, so are the results.
See that? You've often said that, right?
That's right.
So why is, I'm going to let you take it from there.
Why is what?
What? Why is it? Well, it starts from here, right? So it's important what you're thinking. But between it, where it gets from here to here and it comes out, we have to think first and change it, right?
Well, what you're thinking determines upon what you're feeling.
Okay.
So you check with the feelings, because the feelings will tell you when you're wrong and when you're right. If you don't feel good about something, then you got to change your approach, change your thinking, or whatever.
Now, perception is everything.
Absolutely. Perception is a very key word in people's success. They perceive things the way they want rather than sometimes the way they should be perceived.
Can you give us an example?
I'll give you an example. When you take on a blackboard, make a concave circle like this, half a circle, that can be concave, or the way you look at it is concave, or can be convex.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, this can be concave or it can be convex.
See?
Depending upon which area you're looking for.
That's right. That's right.
That's perception. That's an example of perception.
And I want to bring up something, a conversation that my husband and I had the other day when I was on the phone. It was with Karen, and I was trying to get into our website, our Solera website, and it's for a product that we're taking and all. And so my husband was kind of out of the loop while I was on the computer and talking to Karen. So he asked me what was going on, and I told you, I said, yep, well, Karen and I got into it. He goes, you got into it? Remember?
Yeah.
I go, not like that. We got into the computer. So we resolved what we needed to do. There was a couple of things. But it's really funny how things are said and how they're perceived.
Absolutely, because we speak about 15 to 20,000 words a day. We think 65,000, 85 words a day. And so whatever that sum total of words determines upon what kind of next day we're going to have, or what kind of life we have.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're good about thinking about what you're going to say, and I am as well, pretty much, because I've learned to just kind of train my brain that way, especially after being a speaker host on the Home Shopping Network and trying to convey the very best message I could when we were selling product to folks like you. And so in our personal life, it's really no different, because with families and building relationships, you want to make sure that you're conveying the right message without overthinking it. Would you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
That's one of the unwritten laws, so to speak.
And so what we were talking about was perception. So many people misperceive, and then they start judging you for what you just said when you meant something completely the opposite. So that being said, we're going to have some fun here, because I came up with this little thing today. Words. We were just talking about how words are powerful. So it doesn't matter whether you're trying to convey a message or the delivery, and however you're trying to share your emotions, and you want to do that in the most succinct way and have it to be conveyed properly. All right, and I have an example for you, especially if you're out there in business and in relationships. You want it to all really work out, all right? The two words that I'm going to give you, I want you to stop and think on your own, and you can text me on Facebook here, and I'll check my phone. But there's two words that I mentioned to you, and the two words, one is more powerful than the other, and it's the most perfect word to use when taking a look at a relationship, a business transaction, and different things, and how you're going to assess by observing and making the right decision. Now, what did I say? Significant or success? Significant or success? Which word sounds more effective and more powerful to you right now? Write it down. And I'm going to give you the definitions. And my husband and I talked about it just before the show today, and there's a lot to it. And would you say, hon, that words have energy? They have frequency?
Oh, absolutely. They definitely do.
Okay, let's talk about that before I give the actual definitions. And I know you guys are probably running off to your this and looking up what the definitions are. You're probably going to get your own answers from it, and that's okay. So words are powerful, so let's talk about that. Go ahead, about how powerful they are and how they have frequency and energy.
Well, we all basically vibrate in a frequency. In other words, everything is in the world and the universe is in motion constantly, and everything is a frequency. We have good frequency, we have poor frequency. So the words you use has a lot to do whether your frequency is positive, your frequency is negative. If you think, imagine taking a blackboard or a piece of paper, 8 by 10 piece of paper, and drawing horizontal lines in the middle of the paper, and number it going upward 1 to 5, and then number it going down 1 to 5, and 1 to 5 on the positive side is changing our frequency. For example, if we go to number 5 in the positive, the highest form of positive is love.
Yes.
If you go to the negative, the biggest, most powerful word for negative is rage. Rage.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Starts out with a negative.
I could actually feel that energy.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you get to rage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive, you get to love.
Ah.
And playing that game is really significant. There's that word. Because what's happening is you're causing your body, your mind, your soul to vibrate at that frequency. The highest frequency in the universe is love.
It is. And
That's
we've
the
talked
highest. There's no doubt about that whatsoever.
Yes, yes.
Not the syrupy, romantic type of love, but the love, the nature of love itself.
Yes.
The worst is rage. That's where people create more crimes, do things out of the improper approach and things like that. Create a lot of problems in life if they get to that rage. Sometimes it's even worse to have like -1 or 2, where that doesn't seem like negative. For example, if you say to yourself, well, that's not fair, and you dwell on that, that can be like acid dripping in the system. That can be worse than rage in some senses. Because it's like you're borrowing trouble because you're not allowing yourself to get out of that frequency. Nothing can be created good in the lower frequencies, 1 through 5 going downhill. However, there are times that it's important to use that. There are times that it's important to get a little bit mad with yourself. Like sometimes you kick yourself off your butts. I can't do this but. You know, that's what I mean by stopping success.
It's a motivator.
Polarizing success. Sometimes being a little negative is necessary. You can even go further with that, like a great book written, The High Performance Mind by Anna Ross. She says the high performance mind is one that at will can reach that state of consciousness or desire in any given circumstance.
You call that imperturbability.
Imperturbability. Reaching a state of where no matter what emotion you need, you can call upon that emotion. That takes practice like anything else.
That's right.
But anybody that can do that is worth the weight in gold. When you can pull upon whatever emotion you want, you can reach levels. It's like using secret century-old techniques to build an empire with a single thought. It's that dramatic.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because what you were just saying can affect those of us in business, in relationships, right? Whether it's business relationships, personal relationships. What about children? I've just posted shamelessly on Facebook about disciplining and teaching our kids by coming from love. Is that not a different response to discipline when you come from love as opposed to rage. It's one of those things where when we fail to actually manage our emotions, that's when the wrong things come out, right?
Absolutely.
Is that where you can slip yourself into the whole rage thing? In that 1 to 5 going down rather than 1 to 5 going up, which love is here, rage is down here?
It's easier to get negative than positive. It takes less effort to be negative than positive because we're programmed, genetically speaking, we're programmed to be negative for survival purposes.
That's
Our
true.
Paleolithic ancestors, they had very simple forms of life. It was either negative or positive, and they didn't dwell on those things. They went out and they killed the tigers, or they killed for the meat, or the meat killed them, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the very simple system of the nervous system was very simple. But we have not genetically engineered our nervous system to equate to our intelligence. We have become mentally smarter too quick for our emotional ability. In other words, our EQ rather than IQ determined upon more of our success than our IQ. But we have, in many cases, people have not evolved, genetically speaking, to that point where their emotions are in control.
And when you're referring to EQ, in case anybody hasn't heard that before, it's your emotional intelligence. And there is every bit of our successes in life is really hinging on that, is our emotional intelligence and how we are able to manage that. And what we call is, if you get yourself into a funk and you just feel like you can't get out, you know what we call that? We call that emotional prison. Emotional prison. And if you can get out of it, then you've already learned some of our secrets. So going back to those 2 words that we were talking about, and you used it very well here today, significant. I actually looked this up online, the actual definition, even though I felt that significant has more power than success. I mean, we all want to be successful, right? But what is it that we need to do, be, have, show in order to be successful? Do you know the answer? I'm sure you do. It's being significant. Significant in everything we do, because that is what sets us apart from this person and that person and this program and that program. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's true. Everybody has their different opinions, but the key thing is to be flexible. The key thing is to realize that words have power. For example, if you put ly at the end of a word, that makes the word more powerful. If every word you say that has an ly at the end of the word, like remotely, extremely, significantly, if you put ly at the end of a sentence, a word, it does add more power to the word.
Okay, let's weigh that out for just a second, seeing that I am Libra, the balancer of the scales. As soon as you said those words, you said remotely, you said successfully, and you said significantly. Did you guys feel that the successfully was okay? I mean, it's an okay word in my observation, but significantly. Don't you want to be more significant in the job that you do, more significant in your relationship? I mean, this just resonated with me. I hope it's resonating with you, because after you watch the show, it's already in your DNA. Try to pull from that, or try to think of maybe you're trying to put your finger on just the right way to do this next presentation. And so what I would say as a life coach is make it significantly different than the one you did before, significantly giving the greatest content and setting it apart from what else is out there. And that's what is going to make you significantly different. I love that.
It's a good way of putting it.
This was just today, and so let me just give you what I found on the internet. Okay, so success is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. That's very good, right? The president had some success in restoring confidence. The attainment of popularity or profit. A person or thing that achieves desired aims and attains prosperity. Significant, on the other hand, all right, sufficiently great or important. Noteworthy. What is noteworthy? You want to remember that. You want to make the notes about it because it's significantly different. Okay? Having a particular meaning indicative of something in times of stress, her dreams seem to her especially significant. I mean, I can feel that energy. In fact, I think I project in my voice inflection when I say significant versus successful. Right?
Right, absolutely. I don't remember the name of the author of the book. You might remember his name. I don't remember it. He's a Japanese, I believe, descent. He takes pictures of water.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I know I'm going to
Takes
mess
pictures
the
of water,
name up.
freezes water.
Yes, yes.
In other words, he talks to the water. It says love, freezes that water, and looks at it under a microscope. And when he uses the word love, the whole crystallized water forms beautiful patterns, really significant patterns. And when he uses the word hate, it's ugly. The patterns that water forms when it's crystallizing from freezing is ugly. It's negative. So words do have a really powerful meaning. That's why one of the most strongest points that you can do as far as really creating good feelings is letting somebody know how much you love them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There isn't a day that goes by where we don't tell each other we love each other.
That's true.
Can hold a relationship together like glue.
It absolutely does. And like you said, words are very, very powerful. Now, I've got somebody trying to get through here today, so let me go. And are we on prime time? Prime time. Yes. Let me go ahead and find. On the water? The water? The water book?
The water book.
The Japanese dude.
I can't remember his name.
We have two books, Kelly. We've got two of the books at home, and I will text you that, all right? It's John's wife asking about the book, and I'll tell you, this is really, really powerful, and it validates what we're talking about here today.
Right.
Yeah.
It certainly does, and it's amazing because there's no way you can trickifies that, so to speak.
What did you say?
Trickifies that.
Trickify. Is that a word?
Yeah.
We've been making up words today.
That's a word because I said it.
It's like
It just came to me.
It's like my
Trickifies.
spoots. My spoots. Can you see them? They're part shoe and part boot. We do have a lot of fun here. We're trying not to go down too many bunny holes here, okay? But we thought it was really significant for us to talk about these words.
Right. They're significantly important.
They are. They absolutely
You get carried away
are.
with that word, can't you?
Well, I really I love words, and you know I'm a woman of many. So it's important to me, and it does resonate with me. So yes, I'm going to dig those books out. I know exactly where they are. When you walk into our office, it's to the left.
Yeah.
Yes. Before all the trophies. You know, that's a good segue into getting into what I posted on Facebook today. And it was about the words and the power that they have. And that's why we wanted to talk about that, to really stress how important it is. Because how many times have we ever said something to someone and you go, darn, why did I say that? Or couldn't I have said that a different way in order to get my message across? And voice inflection is another thing, you know? It's so, so important. And when you're trying to stress something, you know, it just means all the difference in the world, whether you're in business or at home, right?
Well, you know, there is a little called segment intending.
Oh, yes.
It's a word, segment intending.
Yes.
So when you get in your bed, ready to go to sleep, take and go through if there's any times in the day that you said something you really didn't feel you should have said. It's important, very important, to take and see yourself saying it the right way, the way you would say it from the heart rather than from the head. Because what will happen if you don't do that, you're going to make the same mistake again. You're going to use that same bad word again, or that same cliche or that same thought that was destructive rather than creative. So what you do when you hit the pillow, or even in the middle of the day, I used to take 4 o'clock to 4:30 every day would be my segment intending. And if I said anything prior to that I wish I wouldn't have said, I will correct myself and say it to myself in the way it should have been
then
said.
You're prepared. I do that too, and then you're prepared, like you say, for the next time.
Absolutely.
And maybe this is really crazy, but I truly am micromanaging my time these days, because I'm always saying time is our most valuable commodity. So I really do. I bullet point conversations with friends, with family, and I'm getting more done because I talk a lot. I'll be the first one. I get on my own nerves. What can I tell you? But you know what I did want to mention in our show today, and yes, Kelly, I have 2 books of the same title. It's a Japanese author, and I will hold one for you, and we'll hook up. It's time for us to have coffee anyway, okay? So she just texted me, this is so great. I love this. So that's that answer right there. So today, the whole show as well is centered around a life without limits. Do you feel like your life is limited? Do you think for 1 minute that we've never had that feeling where we can have a life that has limits, or we have a life that doesn't have limits? And believe me, there's been limitations put on our livelihood, right? From health to crazy financial craziness and all of that, to just, generalities of stress in the everyday world. And that being said, that's why we were talking about the importance of words, because it will also help us, as well as you, if you choose to sort of try this and see if it works for you, because I know it will. When you think, and you were saying this earlier on, and feel free to jump in, hon, is what you think about, you bring about. I didn't coin that phrase. It's been around for a long time, from The Secret, from the Law of Attraction, all of that. But it is so true. It is so true. What you think about, you bring about. Can you manifest something that you're looking for, that you're seeking? I manifested this shirt. I manifested a handbag not too long ago because I saw it and I knew it was going to be out there. Sure enough, this just happened the last 2 weeks. And I'm used to it. At first it was like, really? But when we watch our words and we understand how we're conveying our words, our sentences, our descriptions, all of that, it takes root in your soul. It takes root in your DNA, and it comes up just like what you were saying. If you messed up and you said the wrong thing, or you felt like it was perceived in not the right manner, you go back and change it. It's almost like a correction, right?
That's right.
It's
Absolutely.
It's a correction. So speaking about life without limits, I am going to turn this over to my husband, who, if you're brand new watching the show, and for many of you that are return viewers, he's a 6-time world martial arts champion. And he just never ceases to amaze me with his thoughts, his belief system, which we're going to be talking about in the show today, and how you were able to accomplish, in spite of what could have been limitations, from melanoma to Parkinson's disease. I'm turning this over to you, champ, because you always say your mantra is there's a champion inside all of us. Every single one of us, there's a champion inside, and it's up to us to figure out how to champion the champion within, right?
Right, and our words are so important even in the most disastrous circumstances. For example, the fact that I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Do I say I have Parkinson's disease? No, I say I'm recovering from Parkinson's disease. No, somebody say, well, that's not being honest. Look out, that's pie in the sky. But the key thing is how do we know that? And our attitude reflects exactly what happens to our environment, to our situation. So when I say that I'm recovering from Parkinson's, in my own mind, I feel that I am. As a result, my doctor can't understand how I can do what I can do with Parkinson's disease. I'm supposed to have this happen and that happen, but because I'm using the proper words and from my heart, and I look at that as a point that by having Parkinson's, if I can take and pull out of this and really create important things in people's lives with Parkinson's disease, in spite of Parkinson's disease, I should say, then this is a message to anybody, no matter what life-threatening situation you may be given. You don't have to roll over and die. You can take and say, well, now what is good about this? Anything in my life, I say, the first thing I say, what if it's something bad, I say, what is good about this, or what could be good about this? And then I go about making that happen. Just like when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I know I had it, but I didn't want to admit it. Now that I admit it, I've choose the words so that admitting it is in a positive vernacular rather than negative.
Well, that's acceptance, but yet you didn't take ownership. You, for just a brief second when you said, God, why me? And then you immediately said, I was there when you said it.
Yeah,
then you said, God, why not?
Why not me?
That's right.
Right, because then God is saying, look, you want to be more successful than you are as far as helping more people? I'm giving you this so that you can utilize that as an example.
That's right.
Because I kept saying I want to achieve this goal and that goal, and some of the goals were not met yet. But the Parkinson's situation actually is making those goals come true. And I don't believe it's going to affect how long I live. I don't think it's and believe it's going to affect the quality of my life, because I will continuously have a good quality. I believe that. And you know, our belief system is so important. When you want to be a success, the most important thing is strongly create a great belief system. Like, for example, I say I want to have a book written. I want to have a book published. What do I have to believe to be able to do it? So I have to believe I have to do my research. I have to have a good reason. I have to take the time to do it. I have to want to do it. I have to look some good for the time I'm spending on it. So you have to create a belief system. For example, the truth will govern your life, but your perception of the truth your belief system will actually take you further than the truth, in a sense. For example, if people back in the days when they thought the world was flat, their travel distance was very well controlled. They didn't want to go too far or fall off the edge of the earth. However, if your perception is that the world is round, then you're going to travel more and experience more. It's in my book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on page 186 for any of you that has the 6 Steps to the Fountain of Youth, which is an old book, but I'll tell you, it's back to basics. It's really back to basics. You've got the basics in here, and you're talking about creative perception in there.
Yeah.
And I love it when you say that, because it really comes down to our belief system. So what if we have somebody watching out there today and they go, well, where do I start? This is how I was raised, and this is, you know, what I believe today. Well, my goodness, if I believed that I was stupid all my life, would I have done what I have done in my life? You answer that question. If I believed that, because I was told that. Yes, I was told that as a little girl. And guess what? I knew different, and I proved it to myself. And I proved, well, the person that did that is no longer on the planet. But I had to develop my own belief system. I know I'm not stupid. I may not be as bright as the next person, but I know I'm smart enough to do the accomplishments and fulfill my passion. And you know what my passion is today? You, sitting right out there on the other side of that camera. So I can make a difference with my husband, because we tell you what has worked for us. Will it work for everyone? Who knows? Only you will know that if you want to set those intentions. If what we're saying is making sense, you're going to see more and more and more and hear more and more, because this is what we do. This is what we love. We're very blessed to be able to air from WeBeamTV.com every Monday and share what we can share with every single one of you. And if we don't have the answers, I promise you we'll get the answers. You were talking about before the show about that belief system and how critical it is. And you are a perfect example, which will be coming out in your next book, hopefully your documentary, your movie, The Legend of Tango Man. And I know some of you have already heard this story, but I always love to hear it, because you were told you weren't worth 2 cents when you were growing up, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you were told that you would never be able to dance, right?
Right.
And your coach made fun of you because you couldn't play football, and you heard him say very embarrassingly that he was apologizing for having to bring you on the team and apologized to your teammates because you were so lousy in sports.
Well, the only reason they let me play is because I came from a small high school. There's only 98 kids in the whole high school. There's 11 that went out for football, so we played six-man football. So he had to play me. And the other team players, so to speak, they hated it when I got in it because I fumbled. I did everything wrong. I played 3 years of football, never made a touchdown. 3 years of basketball, never made a basket. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but it is true.
I know, it's so
I didn't play
true.
much. He had me sitting on the bench more than I could, but he kept me in case somebody got injured. Then they'd put me in, and everybody looked, oh, no, there goes Kelly. Actually, back then it was Hafmeister.
We changed our name, didn't we? It's all in your story. It's all in the Legend of Tango Man, and one day we are hoping and praying to get this movie out there because it's a motivational, inspirational movie about just what we're talking about here, your belief system, how you can overcome so much. And my husband had to do that with all the things. I had my little share too, and it's how we, going back to the word perception, right? And how we can make a significant difference. There's that favorite word, it's my favorite word of the day, significance, rather than success. Everyone's successful. You wake up in the morning, you're successful. You're on this side of the dirt, right?
Well, you were the fastest swimmer before you were born.
Yes, I love that story too.
We're all born a champion. We're the fastest swimmer.
I know. And you always say that too. You know, even though you're known for being a 6-time world martial arts champion, author of the 6 Steps to the Fountain of Youth, when you say that everyone is born a champion, you're referring to every single one of you out there.
Every human being. Doesn't matter what race, what color. It doesn't matter.
No.
Some of the world's greatest accomplishments were made by people that people didn't believe would do anything.
See? Exactly.
Successful.
Exactly. And where did that come from? A belief system.
That's right. And what really helped me more than anything is when I went in to become a dance instructor after years or months of practice, my instructor that trained me, she had me read a book every other week. That was the only way that she would keep me in the school, because I was sort of a rough at the edges type thing with very low belief system. So she had me go every other week and read a book. I'd have to let her know what I read and when I read it. And I knew that it was a good thing, even though I hated it. Eventually, I got to love to read. Now I can't, how would I say, can't put a book down when I grab the right book. And every book that you read is a new mentor coming into your life.
That's right.
Readers become leaders easier than non-readers become leaders.
I love that.
If you really want to, if you're a young person out there, it doesn't matter, young, old, young, it doesn't matter. If you become a reader, the chance of being a leader and leading not just people, leading yourself. The reason most people can't lead people, they can't lead themselves.
That is,
how you talk to yourself.
That is very good.
That's the key.
It is.
Think of every word we ever said, volumes and hundreds of volumes of words to say, to give you our life. This is our life. All these books and this whole entree of books, hundreds of books that you read. All right, we become that. That's so important. You can judge a person's character a lot by who they hang out with, too. That's so very important. Surround yourself with people that will help give you a lift rather than bury you, so to speak.
We were talking about that on our way up to the studio.
Who you hang out with is going to have a lot to do with how successful you become. I hang out with people that are very successful. I will spend time with people that are unsuccessful, helping to get them to be successful.
Yes.
And one of the first things I say, who are you hanging out with? Do the people you hang out with, they make fun of you? Do the people you hang out with, are they good to you? What do they add to your life? Well, they don't add anything to my life. I don't like this person. What do you hang out with? Well, they do this and do that, and I like, we can make all excuses in the world. A lot of times people don't hang out with the right people because they feel uncomfortable with people that are sharper or more successful. So they hang out with people that are not successful, because then that doesn't lower their feeling of themselves.
But isn't the bottom line how we feel when we leave someone's company? Isn't that the bottom line?
Oh, yeah.
Is assess how you feel after you've spent time with someone. And think about that.
The other thing
There's a
is,
lot to that.
the other thing is, how do you feel? How does somebody else feel when they leave your company? In other words, after you've talked to somebody or been around somebody and they leave your presence, do they feel better about themselves?
Yes.
Or do they feel worse?
Exactly. And because we are energy frequency beings, there is a lot to be said for you could probably explain this better than me because you're like the frequency king here. One of these days we're going to do some energy demos for you. That will definitely blow your mind. But you may have seen some of them on Facebook because I, done with the hand going up and down and all that. Anyway, now I almost forgot what I was going to say. But what were we talking about just now? About the frequency when you're around somebody. Okay, so if I'm around, say you, okay, and you have your crabby face on and you're like, oh, life sucks and everything, and I'm all this and that, and life's great. Are you going to resonate with me, and am I going to lift you up, or am I going to let you drag me down?
That's true.
It's true. It is absolutely true. You can, and that's why I love to be able to help pick people up. I don't want to be around people and drag them down, but, my demeanor's pretty consistent most of the time, I would say. And same with my husband, because we've learned to live with the belief system that we've created on our own that is good, it's wholesome, it's all grounded in a solid faith-based foundation, because that's where we get the strength. That's where we get the strength. And when we talk about living life without limits, we truly both feel that we put limits on ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
And are told sometimes, maybe not all the time, by parents, whoever they may be for us, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. So we're already being programmed that we can't do this. And then if you're told you're stupid because you can't do it, well, then that's double whammy. And then that little voice kind of like comes back later on in life. Remember that little voice you heard many years ago? You can't do it? Oh, maybe I can't. Maybe I can't. Until you start doing just little accomplishments, right? Isn't that what you did?
Well,
you did little accomplishments.
The thing is, everything has a turning point, a tipping point, so to speak. And the tipping point that people go through, sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. It all depends upon how they take that. For example, when my girlfriend broke up with me because I wouldn't dance, and made fun of me because I couldn't dance, and we hung out at the same nightclub in little Fort Myers, Florida, back 40 years ago, and it was like every night that I came there, she would rub it in because she was dancing with a dance instructor, and just rub it in, so to speak, because I wouldn't get up and dance with her when we were going together. So that was a tipping point. I could have just fluffed it off and then kept that negative feeling and never get near a dance floor again. Or I could have looked at saying, no, I'm going to do something about this. I don't like the way I feel. I don't like myself when I look in the mirror. So that was my tipping point. What I chose to do is go and take care of myself, come back to that club, and be able to show that I am not what I was cut out or what people thought I was.
Right, exactly. And so you say that was your tipping point. And was that as a result of you creating a life for yourself that was with no limitations?
Yeah, because what happened then is I became a successful dance instructor. 3 years after my first dance lesson, when my mother tried to teach me how to dance, and she says, you'll never learn how. My mother's a beautiful dancer. So I went to the dance school and did something about it because I didn't like the way I felt. Then eventually that became a very strong factor in my life, because then 3 years after my first dance step, I won a gold medal, won a first place in world competition in the tango and the bolero. as a pro-am competition. So going from nothing to 3 years, then I got involved in the martial arts, did the same thing. Use that as a tipping point. So it all comes together. I could have chose to be negative and not do anything with myself except wallow in self-pity, or I could have done what I did, take the bull by the horn and do something to make me feel good again. And my dance instructor, she was very good at it. She said, if you can walk through that door, I can make you a good dancer. Then I said, well, I told her about my story about my girlfriend going off with the dance instructor. He actually worked for her, and she fired him. I don't know what he did. She fired him. So when I told her I wanted to outdo him to get my girlfriend back, she said, well, we can make you dance circles around him.
I love it.
But when I danced circles around him, I didn't want my girlfriend back anymore because now I was a new me.
You were a new you.
So then I used that to evaluate what I'm going to do next to make myself the new me. So I kept redoing myself.
From not being a good dancer to becoming a ballroom dance champion. And then from there, you use the same techniques, the same principles, the same belief system, especially, this is what I was talking about earlier, small little accomplishments. And you did your lessons, you learned how to dance, and then you ended up becoming a world-class ballroom dancer.
And I read hundreds of books.
Yes, yes.
And that was one of the key factors. I kept re-educating myself because I quit school in my junior year to provide for a family. Won't get into that right now.
No.
But
we'll save that for
was
the
another
Kellys
dark
Unscripted.
shadow. That was another dark shadow. But it turned out right because I have two beautiful children now growing up.
Yes.
And they're magnificent.
I know.
So that was another tipping point.
Yes, and we all have those tipping points in our life experience, but it's how you muster up the confidence in yourself and to understand these different principles and concepts that can work for everybody individually. And it's there in you. It is. It's there in all of us. There's so much going on in the world, and so many people are very self-absorbed into their own lives. And I can understand sometimes we don't even have time to even think about that thought that we're supposed to be being creative with and think before we speak, right? That it just comes out, it just comes out, it just comes out. Or we clam up and we withdraw, right?
Right.
But that's a choice. It's a choice. So as we continue, and we're in the last half hour of our show here today, and I want to make sure that we touch on everything. Kelly, if you're still out there with us, that one book that came to mind was The High Performance Mind by Anna Weiss.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Anna Weiss. And if I can find that in the trophy room when we get home, I'm sure it's on the shelf somewhere. And it may even have a corner of the hardcover chewed off by one of the dogs, but I'll make a little picture for you and send it to you. And then I know exactly where the water book is. I just wanted to mention that. So we've been talking about words are powerful. We're talking about belief systems. We're talking about living a life without limits. And I have to be so honest with you where that came from. And it is actually from Chrysula Gauze, one of our certified Tai Chi master trainers, and her dad, Mike, who recently passed away and lived a life without limits, and that girl is doing the same in her life. She's going to be here for Women Unscripted on the 27th. I will be here on Memorial Day, and we're going to be talking about living a life without limits. Because have you ever heard people say to you that, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that, and there's just too many things that you're doing? Well, for me, I think because of my job at HSN, because our brains were trained to go from one subject to the next, one product to the next, it's almost like I know how to pace myself now in order to achieve even the smallest of accomplishments, just by managing, and I say micromanaging, my time and really putting it into a belief system and learning how to form my mouth in the shape of an O and putting an N in front of it and saying no a lot. It's not because I don't want to do something, but my husband and I are on a mission ministry with Life Empowered, Life Mastered, and that's exactly what we've been doing. And I want to back up a little bit and go to when you did your martial arts. I noticed that you did the same thing over and over and over because I was your groupie. And I went with you that whole year. I saved up all kinds of vacation days, and I traveled with you when you were competing.
Yeah.
The night before, the morning of, I just watched the tremendous amount of focus that came from my husband religiously, day in, day out, right up to the competition. The mind, your mind and your focus, I mean, nothing would break that focus. And I knew, just leave you alone and just let you do what you had to do. And that's how you're able to accomplish the Dantian, the energy demos that you do, right?
It takes the ability to be able to do that. And
Yes.
anybody can do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just keep your attention on the positive, on the goals. Vision them as already accomplished rather than looking like this is what I need to get. A vision like you already have it. And go into that pretense. And then it will bring that out as far as what you need to do to make reality happen.
In this last segment, I want to bring up something that you bring up and in our little intake forums to get to know you as a possible client. One of the things that you brought up at home and on the way up here, because we like to talk about a few things. We're not like Women Unscripted, although we are pretty unscripted to a point. But if you've watched the shows before, you may know what's coming next. But we always try to throw in some new little tidbits that we haven't shared with you yet. And one of them was self-image. Where does that fit in? Is that step one? Is that goal setting number one? Is it goal setting number two? Do you learn how to live from the heart? Let's talk about that.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think one of the most important things, a great book written by Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics.
Kelly, did you get that?
He was a plastic surgeon, and noticed that when some people, they made them beautiful, they still had the same opinion of themselves. It didn't help them. They still thought themselves as being ugly.
What was the name of it?
Psycho-Cybernetics.
Really? I remember you talking about that.
And he discovered a lot of things by that. And what he discovered, what was so important, to really raise your accomplishments, you have to raise your self-image. In other words, to improve your performance, you have to raise your self-image. A lot of people try to raise their performance before they raise their self-image. And it doesn't work that way. It works better believing you can do it. In other words, have a good, strong self-image yourself. Look in the mirror and say, I'm God's greatest gift. I'm a human being. I've got unlimited potential. I was the fastest swimmer before I was born. Those type of things. A lot of accolades like that. We were all born a champion. In fact, what a lot of people don't understand, when the little spermatozoa guys would get to the egg, and what would happen is the egg would vibrate at a certain frequency, and then the little sperm guys, they would vibrate, and the frequency that the egg would choose would be the one that matched her frequency. And then you would have an explosion and eventually a baby.
And that is, that's very profound.
Yeah,
That's
it is. It's a true fact from the research that I researched that really is the case. Now, nobody can prove that, but it makes good table talk.
Yeah, it does.
And it makes good to say, well, I was the one that vibrated like the queen. You look at the egg as being the queen and the sperm being the male part, and they conjoin. And then it's like an atomic explosion under the microscope, so to speak.
You made me think about my grandson and, their situation. He's 5 now, and the whole story behind that we'll share maybe someday. Going back to the self-image thing. You were just talking about this book. Excuse me, Psycho-Cybernetics.
Great book.
By Maxwell Maltz. So what I'm gleaning from what you just said is you can have plastic surgery, have a beautiful outer look about you, but still not be very attractive on the inside. So if that's the case, what about somebody that may not be happy with the way they look like? Would you not say that they need to search from within and find that beauty? That beauty is love.
That is so true. And I tell you, that is so important. And this is something I noticed over the period of the years. I've had several relationships, so I had an experimental ground.
A lot of
in my
several
personal-
relationships.
I was training for you.
I know, and boy, that was a real, that was really something to be a training for me. Go ahead. I just had to throw that in there.
So anyway, now I forgot my point I was going to talk about.
Well, we were talking about the self-image and the love. That is the beauty. That's the beauty inside of us, regardless of what's outside of us.
The self-image is so important because when you raise your self-image, you raise your performance.
Thank
and
you.
then you have to work at it, taking and hanging around, like I say, good people that are productive, and being able to not take personal things when people talk bad about you, but realize that people are doing the best they can with what they have to work with. There's only two really true emotions, fear and love. Which one do you want to bath in? Do you want to take fear or do you want to go love? Everything we do, anything we think about is either in fear or love.
That's true. We did, a couple of weeks ago, we did the demo with the glass of poison or the glass of poise.
Right. What would you choose?
And honestly, do this experiment for yourself. Get a little paper cup and write all kinds of wonderful positive words and put as affirmations, whatever you want, love, happiness, and all that in one cup, and label it poise. And then in the other cup, just when I say poison, I can feel that resonance. Do you know that I came up with less words, and as I was writing the words, like bad attitude, lack of forgiveness, and different things, and we did a little demo on the show. But if you do that at home or do it with your family, and just you can see who's a half empty kind of person and who's a half full, who's full of the positive affirmations and all that. And it really is a good exercise. But I'm glad, and you came up with that. That was fun.
Yeah, what I used to do in a lot of my training meetings when I'd train my staff, I would have them take and say, use your imagination. If God came down and gave you a business and you could hire, the type of people you hired would be anything you wanted, that type of person. In other words, God say, look, you can create the person that's going to work with you. You can create that person and give them, in other words, take everything that you can do to make them as perfect a person as you can. So what is their spiritual beliefs, that person that you would hire? What are their physical beliefs? What kind of shape are they in? What kind of conversation do they do? What do they do with their spare time? Then take and write that down and then ask yourself, now how do I compare to these things? And then you create your id, so to speak, out of creating these things with that invisible person you just made.
You know, that's...
It's a game.
I love that. I love that. And you can do that. You
Yeah.
can absolutely do that. And going back to having a life without limits and not limiting ourselves and limiting our belief system, I would guess that you can create that just exactly like what you said.
Yeah, and the key thing I talk about so many times, are you the director in your life or are you a participant in your life?
Yes.
And that was like creating a movie. If you really want to be successful, you become the director of your life. Most people are not the director of their life. Somebody else is being the director and directing them to what they want, not what you want. So the key thing is become the director of your movie, and then actually you can become a participant in your movie too. That's even going to a higher level. Because if you're the director and the participant, you can control that participant how you want them to fit into your movie. How do you want your movie?
And
well, the movie should be a good outcome.
And that's what you did.
You become a director of your... That's what I did,
You
actually.
did that. You did that.
Started back in 1992.
He literally did this in 1992.
92.
Yes.
I had to write a book. I had to get this, had to do that, had to win championships. I created my scenario to make my movie. I haven't made the movie yet, but we're going to make it. That's the only goal in my life I haven't made yet.
I know.
But that's a work in progress.
It is.
I will make it.
It is a work in progress.
I don't mean me being in the movie. I mean me creating the movie, and we can hire. I have several actors who I wanted to play my part. and one passed away not too long ago, Patrick Swayze, would have been perfect for my part. But we got another guy in mind.
Well, we are getting ready to wind down here, so I just want to thank all of you for joining us today with our special edition on Life Without Limits. And the choice, it really does come down to choices. The choice is up to you. And it doesn't matter what your age is. For my husband and I, our driving force is our children, my little grandson, and generations to come. If we can just impart some knowledge, and believe me when I tell you, life has not been a bed of roses for both of us, and many times we always felt like we were in the pits, but we certainly got out of it. And our coaching program, Life Empowered, Life Mastered, is what has done it for us by mastering all the components to living the best, healthiest life, just by living from the heart and doing the things that we talk about. And we may be redundant, we may repeat the same thing, but you'll always find something new right here on Prime Time. And we air out of Port Richey, Florida, and from WeBeamTV.com. We're here every Monday, and my husband's be coming back more and more and more. And if you have any questions, feel free to private message me. I'm going to get with you, Kelly Creemans. And I have a special anniversary wish to Mark and Marla on their very first one-year wedding anniversary. So, and here's a hug for you guys. Thanks for everyone else for joining us. We'll see you next week. More to come on Primetime.
Sayonara.